Welcome back, Coffee Talkers. Good morning. How are you all doing? We're hanging in there. And it's so cold. Nothing
Very
has
cold.
changed. We just changed our outfits to make it look like we're a new day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new dawn.
It is a new
It's
day.
a new day.
It's a new day.
It is a new day. And it's a great day to have a better day and to learn. So one of the things Kathleen and I were talking about one of the things we were talking about. This is the COVID brain I talk about, right? Like your brain just is like
freezing.
It is. Was like, of course, like building reflection skills, building like validation skills, building self-awareness skills. And so there was this radio show that somebody had called in because they were seeking advice. And so I'm kind of stealing the story, but I thought it was a cool story to break down into little bits of pieces of what it would have looked like for certain things to go on. So we'll label that. She has a different perspective than what I do. So I think we'll talk about that because perspectives is fascinating. I can't talk. It's fascinating. Different perspectives help us to learn, right? And it's helping us to cultivate that empathy and learning to see life through somebody else's eyes. And it's so important. And so I'll try to describe the scenario so that you guys can understand. So there's this woman who wrote in to this show and she was seeking advice because she was, she has a boyfriend she'd been dating for about 2 years. And they have a good relationship and she likes where they're at in their relationship, but she has the boyfriend's mom is really close to the ex-girlfriend. Like they have a super tight friendship. And the girlfriend, the current girlfriend, is really frustrated by this relationship. And she had decided she was going to do something about it. So she talked to her boyfriend about it. And she was just telling the boyfriend how frustrated she was. And the boyfriend just kind of said, well, don't worry about it. Then she asked the next question, which was, so my boyfriend isn't going to help me with the situation. Should I just talk to the mom by myself? Now, I don't know what advice people had given because I had to get out of my car, but I thought it was such a great opportunity to kind of break it down into little bits and pieces of what could it look like if the boyfriend were to really, number one, listen to what the girlfriend's saying, to take in her words, because when we tell people things, there's often a deeper meaning, right? There's things going on. So when we listen with what's really going on deeper levels. So do you want me to just kind of break down my thoughts and then you're going to, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll have my comments.
Okay, yeah. So what would it look like? Let's say the girlfriend went to the boyfriend and tells the boyfriend what, she told him she was frustrated. If the boyfriend could, number one, reflective listen, reflective listening would like, oh, okay, so what I hear you saying is that you're really frustrated with this relationship and you don't know what to do about it. Is that what I'm hearing? So you kind of paraphrase what's going on and you reflect it back to them so that they know you're listening and that you really get it, right? So that would have been a reflection on his part to reflect back to her. And then if he could have taken it one more step and validated her feelings, and that would have looked like, oh my gosh, that sounds like this is really hard for you. There's something really hard about that relationship with my ex-girlfriend and my mom. And then because he just doesn't know what to do, right? He's not being a bad guy. Let's just kind of say that. Like he did what he knew best. He was like, don't worry about it, because he cares about his girlfriend. He's like, it's not a big deal, right? But it is to her. So my curiosity, again, with that empathy, like, what would it have looked like had he been able to tell her, gosh, it sounds like that's really hard for you, and I don't know how to fix that because that's their relationship, but I can tell you that I love you. Or I mean, maybe he's not at the L phrase yet, like I don't know what the relationship's like, but giving her that peace of mind to go, gosh, it sounds like that's really hard. I just want you to know that I'm choosing to be with you and you're my girl and I'm here for you and I can listen. I mean, maybe it would have felt different. I don't know. But those are the kind of things that, we can do in relationships that would help solidify a moment, because she's reaching out for connection and he's trying to
Mhm.
receive it, but it's kind of a block, right?
Mhm.
So how do we flow with conversations to create more connection? But then my curiosity, because we also talk about being self-aware, right? What what I would ask of this woman is, what is it within you that's feeling so frustrated about that relationship?
See, and that's where I jump in.
Yeah.
Because when I hear you talk about validation from her and from him as boyfriend and girlfriend, I think that's really important. My perspective is exactly what you were just going to go into, which is, okay, help me understand why this relationship with my ex-girlfriend and my mother has you concerned.
Yeah.
And see, and I don't know if the radio show addressed those
Yeah.
issues before trying to solve or trying to say, oh, you need to do this and do that. My concern would be is to uncover more of what we've talked about before, self-reflection. Okay, well, what's going on here? Is this because you feel that you want to make a connection with the mother, right? Her boyfriend's mother, but you can't because you know this ex-girlfriend? You don't know what the backstory
Yeah.
is. Or is it because she spends so much time with the ex-girlfriend, the new girlfriend can't build a connection with the mother? Then I would say absolutely there needs to have be some more discussions on that, but without uncovering further information as to why this is a concern, or then there really isn't a clear-cut solution. Because I'm a skeptic in this specific example. I'm a skeptic. Like, what is it that she's not telling?
Yeah.
I get it. People bring their concerns on radio shows. Absolutely, I think you can do that. I just know that there's more sides to this story, and it just seems like something's missing, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Well,
Before looking for a solution.
right. Well, we oftentimes jump to the solution without really knowing what the full problem is, like you're
Mm-hmm.
saying. And I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just taking this example because I think it's a great example of ways, again, that self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And my curiosity would be,
Mm-hmm.
are you feeling jealous? Is that girl
Right.
feeling jealous? Is she insecure with
Mm-hmm.
her relationship? Which it sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a guess,
Right.
right? I
Mhm.
don't know exactly. Guesses
I
are
think-
great,
But
right?
I think that's it's asking questions first. And I
Yeah.
think that is the key in this situation, is to be able to ask follow up and find, like, what I call find out questions. Well, let's find out where this is coming from. And again, my statement over and over that I use, well, tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about your concern. Help me understand. And it's funny because those are phrases that I learned from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so funny.
When you have, like, what I would consider a relationship impasse, where there are two perspectives, seemingly polar opposites, or just misunderstanding, because we have misunderstandings all the time with people we love and care about. And what happens is that in order to kind of like bridge that gap, you have to ask questions, but also get more information. I think we want to feel understood by giving the least amount of information possible. And we can talk about this another time, because I'm like, I'll harp on rom-coms and
Oh, yeah.
movies and the media, especially for perpetuating toxic ideologies
Oh,
of
yeah.
how relationships should exist, where the woman gives the, oh,
Yep.
look, oh, and then he like rushes in to save her, which I just don't agree with.
Yeah.
But you see those themes over and over. So then we try to play those out in our real lives, and it doesn't work like that. In this case, with her specifically, what is it that she needs that she's not getting? And we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Unspoken needs. Because can his ex-girlfriend have a relationship with his mom? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Adults can have relationships with other adults.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everybody's going to like it
Yeah.
in this case, but it means that we need to find out what's going on. In which case, it is up to the boyfriend to say, well, help me understand what it is that you're feeling. It's also incumbent upon her to be willing to open up and share the honest truth with him, and not withhold, understanding that they're talking about his mom. And that's a
Yeah.
personal relationship.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then it goes again to the point of being self-aware, most
Mhm.
likely because we're not. We're so taught to stay on that surface.
Right.
And so again, this is why Coffee Talk with Brandy is existing. Like, what is it within me that's feeling so jealous and insecure?
Mm-hmm.
Because our
Right.
insecurities will show us where we need to heal.
Correct.
And it's Gabor Mate talks a lot about that. I love him. He is one of my favorite people to learn from, as well as Brene Brown. But he really talks about our insecurities are not
Right.
there to taunt us.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to show us where to heal. And so it's uncomfortable, right? And we don't often know how to have uncomfortable conversations, right?
Right.
Like, she did go to the boyfriend. She did address her concern. And he thought, like, okay, don't worry about it. And that's, you know, that's
being dismissed.
Level. Right. Well, does he recognize it, though?
But he might not. Exactly. He might not know that he's dismissing her, even though that's what it is.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize that it was a bigger concern for you. He just recognizes, hey, it's not a concern for me, so it's okay. For him, it's okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. Then she might need to say, hey, wait a second. It might be a misunderstanding. You misunderstood, or I feel like, right? Because you use I statements. I feel like I've been I feel like you've misunderstood me. Or maybe I wasn't clear. I think that's a good one to use as well. I wasn't clear enough when I came to you. It's all about identifying feelings. I'm feeling jealous in this situation. I'm feeling uncertain. I'm feeling concerned, or whatever it is that she's feeling. Then it also gives him an opportunity to identify and empathize with her emotions, rather than, oh, they have a relationship and I don't agree with it, or whatever she had said.
Well, and it's so hard. I mean, again, adults can have relationships. It's a matter of her figuring out where she's at in that. And also, I guess if I put myself in her shoes, and if I'm insecure in that way, I would be worried the boyfriend might be tempted to go back with the ex-girlfriend because the mom likes her. Does the mom like her more than me? And she's going to talk the boyfriend and back into going to her.
Correct.
So those are like the deeper concerns to like surface questions, right?
Right.
So it's like digging deeper to figure out, how do we move forward in life in a way that is a conscious living versus the unconscious living, just kind of. Yeah.
And I've had my challenges as well, plural, right? Because right after my ex-husband and I, right after we divorced, there was a time when he had reached out. My brother had reached out to him because he helped out with his pool. And so he reached out to my ex-husband, and we hadn't been divorced for very long. It might have only been like a few months. And the kids were with him. And so when I wasn't there, like at my brother's house, my ex-husband and my kids came over, and while he was fixing the pool, and I felt very excluded in that respect. I'm like, oh, because it reminded me, hey, if I go to my brother's house when we were married, right, we would go as a family. But now, and this was just one instance, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to adjust if my brother wanted to have my ex-husband come over and help with the pool and actually, continue to do that. There would be, right, that opportunity to bring the kids so that all the cousins could play together. And that for me was an emotional challenge to work through, because again, it was because I was feeling left out. Wait, you're going over to my brother's house?
Yeah.
And I had to put that aside and realize, you know what? I need to be okay with that, because it doesn't have anything to do with me. I want my brother's pool to get fixed, and I want him to go with somebody that he trusts. If he trusts my ex-husband, that's okay. Yeah. And it should be okay, because like you said, sometimes there are relationships that we have that you just don't cut off, or you do. I mean, divorce is really hard. Sometimes you do. I felt that. I've received that, and I know friends as well, right? When you divorce the entire family, and that happens. And if it doesn't, hey, that's okay too. It's difficult regardless. Yeah. But again, what were the feelings that I felt in that situation, and how was it that I wanted to feel? Well, in the end, it was a positive experience. My kids had a great time playing with their cousins. I talked to my brother afterwards. He said, my ex-husband did a great job helping with the pool. So I'm like, well, good. You know what I'm saying? That's positive.
Yeah. Well, and you learned.
And that was good.
Because you had to stop to reflect. Like,
I did have to reflect. I did. Yes.
This is what emotional intelligence is really all about. Like, instead of reacting, we take that moment to think about why it is the emotions are being present in our body.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I kind of got myself in hot water a while back.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Let's hear this.
I know, it was on one of the social medias, and I was just expressing that I was really grateful that there is a call to action for men to be able to be more emotionally intelligent and to be,
Right.
embrace that side, right?
Yes.
However, just using the word and term emotional intelligence,
Okay.
there were a lot of men coming at me, yelling at me on the platform,
Right.
accusing me of making men like women, and we don't need a whole world of criers, and like all of these big feelings,
Really?
right? All of these emotions that, they
Mhm.
have are coming at me. And then it dawned on me, I was like, wait a minute, like emotional intelligence is a human thing. It is not, it's not a gender. It's the ability to allow ourselves to be in tune and in touch with our feelings so that we can respond to situations over reacting. And if I may be blunt and say, they were reacting. And just out of curiosity, when you're coming at me and you're kind of using, swear words and coming at me, can you tell me at that moment, what are your emotions at that? Why are you so angry with me
As a
about
stranger?
right, about emotional
Right.
intelligence? I mean,
Right.
emotional, it's okay to, let's just say that it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to have feelings, all of these things. And these kind of topics and conversations, like, the scenario I brought in, I don't know who these people are, but it gives us the ability to kind of take a step back to look at how do we interact and connect with one another? How do we make our friendships, our relationships, our partners, our relationships with kids become connections that we're connected instead of disconnected?
Right.
Because the biggest thing that disconnects us is not feeling seen and heard, which is exactly what Brene Brown talks about. So in that moment, he says, don't worry about it. He's not meaning to be a bad person. Let's just, again, say that. That's where he's at. That's the skill set. He's not being a bad person. But it invalidates where she's at. And so then there's this moment of disconnection in a moment that could be very connective. So it's like, how do we start shifting that within ourselves?
Right.
Like, so I'm asking, like, any viewers out there, again, it goes back to asking yourself those questions. When you are in a situation with a person, wherever you're at, whether that be at the grocery store, all of those things, and you find yourself reacting and you're frustrated or whatever that is, when you have a moment later on, go back to that moment and ask yourself with compassion, what was going on inside myself that felt such an adverse reaction? Because rarely, if ever, do we respond according to the present moment. When we respond, we're present. When we react, that is past. We, when you come to terms with the pain or the trauma or whatever you've experienced in your life, and you're aware of that now because you become self-aware, you don't find yourself being triggered per se or activated. Whatever that is, you find it a little bit less and less because you're becoming more aware of your past history and where you're at in the present moment. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. Yeah, it does.
And so that's the question of the week. We're almost hitting towards 20 minutes already. These conversations go so fast. We're trying to stay to 20 minutes roughly because it's hard to, attention spans. I know you have time, you got to go. It's getting late. But, and, that's another thing, the but and. If you can learn to say and instead of but, it's a lot better because you just negate, like, you're so beautiful, but you'd be more pretty if you'd lost 20 pounds. You just negated everything you said. So it's like, you're so beautiful and I love the way you wear your hair. Trying to remove, you're welcome.
I'll drink to that.
Trying to remove the but out of sentences. Anyway, please follow, subscribe, hit the subscribe button wherever it may be on the bottom. Come hang with us. We'll have fun. We'll see you in the next week, next video, all of that good thing. Have a beautiful day and be kind to yourself, okay? We love you.
Cheers.